My name is Alta, and I am a fighter.
Video games come and go, and there are a rare few that actually stick with you. For me, Wanderstop was one of those games. Hello beautiful people, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Mai, and if you're not so new, welcome back. So before we dive in, I would like to personally thank Ivy Road Studios for sending me a full key of the game so I could review it early for you guys. And it also goes without saying that my opinions are my own, and we all know how much I love an honest review. Saying that, there will be some minor spoilers in this, but I will be giving you all the heads up, either like this or with a big full slate on the screen, but let's just say that you've been warned. So, without further ado, let's get stuck in. Whether you've played the demo or not, let me reintroduce you once more to Wanderstop. Meet Alta, an overachieving fighter who's been undefeated for 3.5 years. That is, until someone finally beats her. Alta ventures into the forest in search for Master Winters, one of the greatest fighters of all time, hoping to regain her lost strength and title. However, things don't go quite as planned. After losing her strength in the forest, Alta collapses only to awaken in a clearing where she meets Boro, the owner of Wanderstop, a tea shop and resting place for weary travellers. Despite her reluctance and pride, Alta agrees to help Boro run his tea shop in exchange for a place to rest until she's able to leave. Your days are spent tending the tea shop, growing fruit, decorating, and serving customers, all at your own pace. You can even spend this time creating hybrids or sipping on the different teas to uncover more of Alta's backstory. You can simply test your strength a la Excalibur, or much like that Sondheim musical, venture into the woods to see if you can leave. You'd think it would be as straightforward as that, right? Well, certainly yes, but sadly not. Time for the burst of the game's many twists. For those who haven't played the demo yet, this might be a minor spoiler. As you complete your tasks for Boro, the Demon Hunter, and Gerald the Dad Knight, strange things start to happen. This forest works differently to other forests, and it seems as though time doesn't quite pass while you're inside the clearing. As a result, and out of nowhere, you discover that everyone but Boro simply stops talking to you. Could this be the curse that inflicts Gerald, the vital tea ceremony the Demon Hunter performs, or just something else? Well, this is when the plot thickens. With both your heads scratching, you and Boro saunter to the shrine to simply meditate. You know that little voice in your head that tells you something's wrong? That voice that tells you to just keep on going, or that you're just being stupid. Some call it intuition, a gut feeling. Well, it's here where Alta is confronted by her own little voice. Except hers is the voice of, I don't know, determination, ambition perhaps. Either way, it won't let her rest and forces her to push on. I have a feeling we won't be seeing the last of her. My stomach dropped. My beautiful tea shop was gone. The plants I potted, the trinkets I displayed, even the whole layout of the clearing had completely changed. The entire place had reset itself with a whole new colour palette as well. Don't get me wrong, this was a punch in the gut because I didn't know when I'd be seeing Gerald again. I also mourned the hours I'd spent decorating the place. Looking back at it now, and as my playthrough progressed, I have to admit this was an impressive plot device. In that moment, I felt apprehensive about dedicating time further into making the shop and the clearing beautiful, only for it to potentially be reset again. So I took Boro's advice to heart and treated this like any other day at the tea shop, making the place beautiful again. I acquainted myself with the new customers, brewed tea, and tested out some other theories of my own. I may have started a business rivalry with Nana, who, straight off the bat, seemed pretty different to everyone else. Either way, I got a kick out of her. I quickly got used to the routine and even more quickly picked up the pattern of this chapter. I knew when shit was about to hit the fan, and no matter how hard I tried, I knew it was coming. The beauty of this, though, is that I had the choice to put off the inevitable. I knew I could ignore the impending change brewing and bubbling away. So, until I knew it was entirely necessary, I continued to make the clearing beautiful, knowing the end was near. As a whole, the concept of the reset cycle is both refreshing and bittersweet in a way, which highlights the game's themes and change and personal growth. Like life, everything can change in a heartbeat. One day you could be creating a beautiful life for yourself, only for it to be taken away and changed drastically in the blink of an eye. It's especially clear that every cup of tea Alta drinks, so does her backstory unfurl. A history of anger and violence uncontrolled, parental relationship issues, and to sprinkle on top, the need to prove oneself. It was a bittersweet experience, knowing moving on was inevitable, but choosing to embrace it as long as I could. Wanderstop is full of twists and turns, and without giving too much away, it's safe to say that it definitely keeps you on your toes. It's a story about growth, change, and the acceptance of the inevitable, but the game also offers a deep emotional narrative that resonates with anyone who's experienced the tension between holding on to the past and embracing the future. As much as I want to continue with a chapter-by-chapter analysis, I won't spoil the game for you any longer. Let's just say that one of my many theories were right, and in this game there's a lot of moving on, both physically and emotionally. You'll have to play the game to know what I'm getting at, but for now, let's just focus on other areas of the game.
When it comes to the actual gameplay, it's pretty straightforward, but still offers plenty of creativity. At its core, Wanderstop is a cozy farming and shop management game sprinkled with an excellent story. You grow fruit, gather resources, and serve tea to visitors at the tea shop. For new players, the brewing aspect can initially feel daunting.
The complexity and multi-step process involved in brewing tea at the pyramid requires a degree in itself. That's it, once you get the hang of it, it becomes second nature. The contraption itself puts you into a really natural rhythm. Climbing, pulling ropes, kicking switches, and lobbing in a myriad of ingredients results in whatever concoction you've decided to make. Some customers are more picky in their orders though, but for the most part you can predict what they might want just by flicking through your field guide. And if you're like me and occasionally clueless, the book of answers will quickly become your best friend. Because trust me, it gets complicated. Now, in order to actually brew the tea, it requires at least one key ingredient: fruit. In the clearing, you'll find plenty of pots and space to build your gardening empire. It's more than just a typical farming game though, as Wanderstop uses a unique hex grid that allows you to plant seeds in intentional patterns. Depending on how you place the seeds, it can result in a small plant straight up to large hybrids. Standard hybrids produce multiple seeds, whereas large hybrids yield the fruit which you need to use for tea. With so many potential combinations, you'll soon be experimenting with a wide variety of weird and wonderful fruit. Fortunately, the field guide acts as a handy reference, complete with diagrams for every possible combination, in case you forget how to make a specific fruit. I, much like Alta, try to refrain from any help, and I prefer to experiment from time to time. The combination of brewing and gardening mechanics is a refreshing change of pace and is executed wonderfully in Wanderstop. As much as I love a good farming game, they can always get a little bit repetitive, but here, plants serve multiple purposes, whether as tea ingredients or decorative items in the shop. I'm sure in my next playthrough or two, I'll focus on making the tea shop a more unique and beautiful place to be. Alta is a fascinating protagonist because she's not defined by her victories, but by her loss. When we meet her, she's an overachieving fighter who defines herself by her unbeaten streak. 3.5 years to be exact. That title, that identity, is what gives her purpose. But when that title is stripped away, she has to decide who she really is. It's now that she has to either face the loss, grieve the death of her title, or to simply try to take it back. Her introduction tells us everything we need to know about how she views the world. Strength is everything, and rest is a weakness. The amount of times she scoffs or puts down the idea of settling with running the tea shops truly screams a hero of the hustle. Even after losing her ability to fight, she clings to the idea that she can regain it if she just tries harder. Sadly, this is something many people, including myself, have been programmed to believe at least once in their life. The self-gaslighting that if you just work really hard, then everything will be okay. That's why she's set out to find Master Winters, because she believes that with the right training, she can reclaim what she's lost. But that belief is shattered when she collapses in the forest, sword too heavy to lift, utterly drained of the strength that once defined her. Her arc is about moving past the need to prove herself. At first, she resists the idea of rest. She dismisses the tea shop as nothing more than a means to an end. Something to keep her occupied while she recovers, settling for something less than glory even. Slowly but surely, and as time moves on, she begins to find meaning in it. She starts caring about the shop, the customers, and even the small joys of growing plants and brewing tea. Even as the player, I grew attached to the weirdos coming into the shop and the happy little haven I had created. However, much like Alta, I knew this was only temporary and there was a higher purpose to her story. Even in moments of peace, there's an ever-present tension, a feeling that she should be doing more, should be
pushing herself harder. I would often make many attempts to lift her sword or run into the forest in hopes that she had gotten stronger. Alta's arc is one of acceptance and forgiveness. Not just of rest, but of change. She has to come to terms with the idea that she may never be the person she once was, and maybe that's okay. She needs to forgive herself and mourn the possible loss of her career. She may never be the fighter she once was and has to learn to be okay with that. The tea shop isn't just a place to recover, it's a place to rebuild. She's forced to confront the idea that nothing's lost forever. That's where Wanderstop hits hardest. It's not just about letting go of the past. It's about learning how to move forward even when you don't know where you're going. But where there's yin, there is yang.
If Alta is all about fire and intensity, then Boro is her opposite. Steady, patient, and unshakable. One might even say Buddhist-like. He's the first person Alta meets when she wakes up in the clearing, and from that moment on, he becomes her guide. Not just through the mechanics of the tea shop, but through the process of slowing down. Boro is still a mystery to me, but not in the way most video game characters are. He doesn't hide things from you, rather, he's so at peace with himself he doesn't feel the need to actually explain. He's goofy at times and comes across a little dopey and clueless, but he's content in a way that Alta cannot comprehend. He doesn't push her to accept her situation, nor does he try to force wisdom on her. Instead, he simply exists, offering quiet encouragement, embracing change, and giving gentle reminders that not everything has to be a battle. As I played through the game, my suspicions of him dwindled, but I still had one foot out the door, ready to run at a moment's notice. I mean, I know I'm cynical, but there's no way he can be so content and not be hiding any secrets. As soon as I settled on the sense of security, my armor would be back up as soon as he encouraged us to move on. He is someone who has clearly been through something similar though. Yet, instead of becoming bitter, he's found a way to exist in the present. He doesn't see the act of making tea, decorating the shop, or speaking with travelers as meaningless busy work. He sees them as acts of care, of creation. I suppose he's sort of the embodiment of slow living, and even I find that hard to believe is the perfect way of life. He teaches Alta, and by extension the player, that making something beautiful, even if it won't last, is still worth doing. Yet despite his calm demeanor, Boro isn't just a wise mentor figure. There are hints of melancholy beneath his warmth, moments where you sense that he too has lost something. Throughout my conversations with Boro, I learnt about his history with some of the characters, certain incidents at the tea shop, and his vast knowledge of the world beyond the forest. He never explicitly states his past struggles, but his presence alone suggests he understands Alta's pain better than she realizes. He's not there to fix her. He's there to be there for her, a reminder that she doesn't have to figure everything out on her own. Wanderstop's art style is stunning, and I consider it a direct extension of the game's themes. The combination of traditional art within the forest cutscenes and the soft painterly style feels warm and inviting, perfectly complementing the sense of quiet reflection and overall coziness. Every element of the vibrant and sometimes cotton candy skies to the way the sun filters through the trees in just the right way. Down to the character designs, the trinkets, and the grumpy but adorable look of the Pluffins ticks all the boxes of how a cozy game should make you feel. Cozy, of course. Even the exaggerated designs of the customers who visit the tea shop can be on the nose, an obvious joke, or just something filled with whimsy. I'm still in awe of the traditional art used in the forest though. It's a simple example of division between the magic of the clearing and the world outside it. No soft edges, but instead overly bold colours and still very full of life. Much like the soft colours of the forest and cozy atmosphere of the shop, there are mirrors in the calming, melancholic soundtrack. The soundtrack is something I could rave on about forever. Wanderstop's soundtrack, composed by C418, best known for his work on Minecraft, includes his signature ambient style, which works perfectly for the game. His work is simple, but still has an element of cozy and melancholic moments throughout Alta's story. Much like his work on Minecraft, C418's music is delicate and atmospheric, featuring soft piano, airy synths, and also some whimsical tunes for certain characters to lighten the mood a bit. There's an intentional slowness to the way it flows too, encouraging the player to take their time, sip their tea, and breathe. It feels organic, like a natural extension of the clearing itself, wrapping you in warmth, much like a well-brewed cup of tea. But like its visuals, the music shifts with Alta's emotional state. In moments of peace, the melodies are soft and reassuring, yet as doubt and exhaustion creep in, the compositions take on a more melancholic tone. Subtle distortions in the instrumentation, slower tempos, and an underlying tension that you can't quite shake. It's a masterful use of audio storytelling, ensuring that Wanderstop's emotional beats resonates just as much through sound as they do through its visuals and writing. The soundtrack doesn't just accompany the game, it breathes it, adapting to its ever-changing mood in a way that makes every shift feel deeply personal. As a side note, if the soundtrack is ever released, particularly physical, expect me to be the first to pre-order. I will say this, however. Beneath the gorgeous music and art, I believe that Wanderstop truly shines in its writing and how it explores one of the many themes: mental health. One of Wanderstop's most striking elements is how it externalizes Alta's inner struggle. The tea shop and the clearing act as a reflection of her emotional state, shifting as she struggles with doubt, exhaustion, and the weight of her past. When she first arrives, the area is lush and overgrown with weeds, but full of potential, a metaphor for her physical recovery, her journey towards healing, and her struggle to let things go. With much effort, Alta creates her own sanctuary within the clearing, safe from the dangers of the outside world. But what happens when hope begins to fade and everything is lost? Now, this is quite a bit of a spoiler now. There is a point in the game where Alta's mental exhaustion takes hold, and the clearing itself mirrors that shift. A time in the game I do not wish to revisit because it is all too familiar. What was once a vibrant and inviting place becomes bleak, stripped of life and colour and overrun by relentless weeds growing at a faster speed than what Alta can cut away. This sanctuary becomes a shell of itself, and much like before, any visitors immediately stop talking to her. It's a subtle but not so subtle way of representing how depression and burnout can seep into every aspect of your life, even draining the life of the hobbies and passions you loved most. This isn't just a visual change, it's a fundamental shift in the story. As soon as I attempted my usual chores and started cutting down the weeds in hopes to return the clearing to its former glory, I quickly gave up. I felt bogged down by the unachievable and found every way possible to leave this version of the world. I'm aware the forest works in mysterious ways, but in some ways this just felt cruel. And yet, although the task felt insurmountable, Wanderstop was able to carry the message of resilience. Even when the world seems bleak, there are still moments of light. Much like moments of maturity in life, the somber progression was inevitable too. Boro remains a steady presence in the game and a reminder to Alta and the player that they aren't alone. And just like many times before, the shop can be brought back to its former beauty, no matter how many times they move on. For the majority of the game, it's a quiet but sensitively delivered message. Healing isn't linear, it can't be rushed, and it's different for everyone. And sometimes you have to sit with the struggles and discomfort before you can really move on. I think it's pretty obvious my feelings about Wanderstop. I find it difficult to find a game that I am more than happy to return to without the fear of burnout or getting bored too quickly. With every chapter, I could see the amount of love and hard work that was poured into this game. And as soon as I received the key, I dedicated all my free time to not only completing the game, but also taking in all the fine details, the story beats, and special moments that people may miss. I can consider Wanderstop as one of my favourite games. Not just this year, but of all time. I would definitely say it's part of my top 10. Saying that, there were moments in the game where I grew incredibly impatient, frustrated to having to refer to my guide constantly because there was no on-screen task. But I suppose the creators did that for a reason. Although it's a game, I guess they were teaching the player to take things slow, taking that advice into the real life. And I appreciate I was torn as how I was going to approach this review in the first place. I kept saying to myself, this isn't a cozy game, or it's a cozy game in sheep's clothing. There's a reason why this game is highly anticipated. Wanderstop tells the story of a woman struggling with her past, whilst also allowing herself and finally accepting the gift of healing and rest. Coming from a burnt-out individual such as myself, this game speaks to people like me who were told from a young age to subscribe to hustle culture, and that not only is resting for the weak, but resting is unproductive and downright lazy. Wanderstop, however, tells you that it's okay to rest, that the past can be forgotten, and hope is always around the corner. Wanderstop isn't just about making tea, it's about loss, resilience, and the beauty of fleeting moments. And like a good cup of tea, it lingers with you long after you've finished it. So it goes without saying, in my honest opinion, Wanderstop is a must-buy. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear my thoughts on Wanderstop. A huge thanks again to Ivy Road for sending me a copy of the game and also introducing me to my new favourite game. If you enjoyed the video, why not give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more honest reviews and lovely content such as this. Your support always means the world to me. Let us know in the comments below about your thoughts on Wanderstop and also what your favourite tea or hot bevy is. Thank you again so much for watching and have a good one. Bye!